now we have next gen sequencing technologies available, and we are generating a lot of data by using this next gen sequencing. And now we are more aware about, we have much better understanding of microbial communities which are interacting with plants. And taking clues from these studies, now people are, and we also in our lab, we are designing synthetic communities wherein we are not just looking into the beneficial organisms. Yes, they are important, but they also need certain organisms which are helper organisms.
Hey, welcome to Biotech Talks. In our second episode of Biotech Talks, we got to know about the human microbiome, how microbes in your gut play a very important role in maintaining your health. Well, today we are going to discuss how microbes present in the soil play important role in maintaining the health of plants. What is plant microbe interaction? That is what we are going to get to know today. Now, why we should be interested in knowing the relation between plant and microbes? Well, as I said, microbes control the growth of plants. They play a very important role there. Now imagine if I somehow got some microbes or some consortium of microbes that is giving me a better crop yield, how great that would be, right? So that's the reason why plant microbe interaction is what we are going to get to know today in this podcast. So what are the different types of plant and microbe interactions? How can one harness the plant microbe interaction for the betterment of agriculture, and what are the challenges of organic farming, and much more will be explained to us by Dr. Praveen Rahi. He is Scientist C at NCMR NCCS. So I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Do microbes interact with plants?
Yes, microbes do interact with plants, and these interactions are many times beneficial to plants, and majority of the time they are beneficial to the plants, and in few cases they are harmful also, like certain microorganisms, they are pathogenic also, and they do cause harm to the plant, and ultimately there is a reduction in crop yield and productivity. And these interactions are like, if we talk about beneficial interactions, this includes a variety of interactions which include making nutrients available to the plants, and protecting plants from the pathogens. So certain microorganisms, they have ability to stop the growth of pathogens, or by different ways, like sometimes by antibiotics, or by inhibiting their growth by some other way, by releasing certain kind of enzymes. So microbes, they really are very important for plant overall growth and productivity, and they are really a key aspect in any plant's life. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the different types of microbe and plant interaction?
Okay, so if you talk about variety of different types of interactions, as I told you, there are direct and indirect interactions. So direct interactions includes microorganisms when they are directly benefiting or harming the plant. So which includes nitrogen fixation, wherein a bacterium, it enters into symbiosis with plants and fix nitrogen for plant, and plant is getting direct benefit from the microorganisms or the activity of the microorganism. And in certain cases, when there is an indirect interaction, so that means microorganisms, they are playing some role near plant or on the plant surface, but not directly interacting with the plant. So that means they might be releasing certain kind of compounds by their normal routine growth, and these compounds may be like, if I give you example, so it could be a siderophore. So siderophore microorganism release to chelate iron. So these by this way they try to secure the iron for themselves, and many plants, they have the ability to use that chelated form of iron, and they uptake it for their growth and productivity. So it's like, it's not the microorganism directly benefiting the plant, but it is doing something for itself and plant indirectly getting that benefit out of microorganism.
So, which microbes interacts with plants?
Okay, so there is a wide variety of microorganisms which interact with plants, and if you divide them into groups, functional groups, like based on their attributes or based on their functions. So they could be nitrogen fixers, they could be mineral solubilizers. Mineral solubilizers means they could solubilize phosphorus or potassium or silica and zinc. So these are micronutrients which are required for the plant's growth, but they are not easily available, readily available for the plants, so that they can uptake and use its metabolism. So in those scenarios, they need some microorganisms which can release them and make them available to the plants. And there are, as I told you, that some of them are which can like stop or check the growth of pathogens. So they are antagonistic to the pathogens, and they can when they check the growth of microorganisms, pathogenic organisms, they will get plants will get benefit out of it. And if you talk about taxonomically, like that, this was the functional attributes. And if you talk about taxonomically attribute, like if you want to say which organisms, like which genus, which species. So there are studies wherein we found that Proteobacteria as a phylum is more abundantly present in the plant surfaces, may it be rhizosphere, may it be phyllosphere. So they are more enriched in plant sites. So, and at genus level, Rhizobium and Pseudomonas, these are very important genera, and they are they play vital role in different functions, like all those nitrogen fixers and phosphate solubilizers. They belong to majorly from Pseudomonas and Rhizobium genus. And similarly, fungi. So there is a wide variety of fungi also which can benefit plants by performing various functions. And if you talk about their taxonomy, so it's like Trichoderma and Penicillium. These are really very important genera which play different roles in which are beneficial to plants. Like Trichoderma, it is a it releases certain kind of antimicrobial compounds and inhibits the plant pathogens. So it's a very important biocontrol agent. Penicillium is again a very good biocontrol agent, but it is more used as a phosphate solubilizer. It solubilize phosphorus very nicely and make it available to the plant. And there is another group of fungi which we call arbuscular mycorrhiza. They form symbiosis, they enter into symbiosis with plants, and they make like it is like they increase the nutrient absorbing capacity of plants by increasing their root network. So mycelial fungi, or these arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, their mycelia, they can spread in a wide range, and they can absorb more and more nutrients from the surrounding and make those nutrients available to the plant.
So, sir, what plant microbiome research is going on at NCMR?
Okay, at NCMR we are looking at various aspects of plant microbe interactions, and when we are looking at rhizospheric interactions, we are looking at whole plant as a we call it phytomicrobiome, wherein we try to consider whole plant system, wherein phyllosphere, fruit, flowers, leaves, and the rhizospheric microflora. We are looking into all those communities and try to find that what are the organisms present in there. So just knowing their structure of those communities, and then try to predict their function, that what could be their potential roles they are playing in those particular habitats. So may it be leaf or a flower or maybe a root. So recently we concluded one study on lotus microbiome. In this particular study, we collected samples from Dal Lake in Kashmir, and we so the lotus grows. It's a aquatic plant, so it grows in Dal Lake, and the leaves are like exposed to the air, whereas the rhizome and root they are embedded deep there, and they are growing in the sediments. Okay, so we found that the microbial communities or the bacterial communities are highly abundant, are highly diverse in the root surfaces. We call it rhizosphere. And when we looked up, like rhizome, which is the next important part of lotus plant, therein the diversity decreases. But when we come up again and try to understand the communities in the phyllosphere or on the leaves, so therein again there is a increase in the diversity. But when we go up to root these flowers or to the fruits of the lotus plant, again there is a decrease in the diversity. So this is one understanding we found, that there is a different levels of microbial diversity. It's not consistent across the whole plant system. So in different niches or microhabitats, they have differences in their diversity also, overall microbial diversity. We are also looking into legume rhizobia symbiosis. This is one of the key aspect which we are studying in our lab, and herein we collected samples from pea root nodules from different agroclimatic regions in India. So now we are trying to devise some experiments where we try to understand the ecology and evolution of rhizobia and pea symbiosis in a experimental way. So herein what we are going to do is we'll try to inoculate different species of rhizobium to peas, and we cultivate these pea plants under different conditions, like in a gradient of pH or gradient of salt or maybe gradient of temperatures, and then try to see how these species will be, and how one species will enter or behave to this changing environments. So that will give us some clues that we can correlate later based on the diversity, like why these species are so scattered in one case, and while another species is so dominant in another case. So this is the work we are doing now.
Okay. So how do you think the studies related to plant and microbe interaction is affecting agriculture or will be affecting agriculture in future?
Okay, so plant microbe interactions are being researchers are trying to harness these plant microbe interactions since ages, and there are several microbes based formulation which are already available in the market, and farmers are using it, and many agriculture industry, they are also using it in large scale farming. And but the major challenge with these bioformulations till now is the inconsistency in their field performance. So what people have observed and what is the response from the market or response from the farmers or and the people, those who are into agriculture system, that these microorganisms, they sometimes behave very well and you will get a tremendous response in the form of their activity in the field. But in certain cases, like if there is some change in the system, maybe there is overwatering or there is less water or there is some change in the climate, so that may lead to failure of these biofertilizers. So the inconsistency is a challenge, and researchers are now trying to look into this particular aspect, that how to make these microbial formulations more consistent so that they can work under wide variety of climatic conditions. So we can call them making climate smart bioformulations. So to make climate smart formulation, one has to understand that what are the ranges for a microorganisms to behave or perform better. So this required a lot of studies, and people are doing it, and now we have next gen sequencing technologies available, and we are generating a lot of data by using this next gen sequencing. And now we are more aware about we have much better understanding of microbial communities which are interacting with plants. And taking clues from these studies, now people are, and we also in our lab, we are designing synthetic communities wherein we are not just looking into the beneficial organisms. Yes, they are important, but they also need certain organisms which are helper organisms. And in the past, most of the researchers, because we were always of like our research studies were always biased toward the beneficial ones. We were always picking the organism which were performing certain functions, but we always ignored the community as such. It's not just one organism or two organisms which might be performing a particular function. There is always a community, right? So if you isolate that best performer from the community and then put it into a newer community, that best performer might not work or might not perform the way it's supposed to. So now what we researchers are trying to give that home-like situation, like synthesize a synthetic community wherein we also want to have the beneficial organism and the helper organisms together, and then introduce into the field conditions and then see how they will perform. And this study is like quite recent, so I'm not saying that these products are available in the market. There are no such products right now which are based on synthetic communities, but it's an ongoing research. Okay, so people are working on it, and they are devising these kind of strategies. And the experiment which were conducted in labs, they have shown that these synthetic communities, they perform much better in comparison to the single microbial or consortia of 2-3 beneficial microorganisms.
So, as a plant microbe interaction researcher, how do you see organic farming?
Yes, okay. Organic farming, it's a very good idea. It's like everybody wants to have a system which is more sustainable, and it is expected that organic farming can lead to a sustainable agriculture system. But it has its own challenges, and organic farming, if we talk about removing all the chemicals from the shelf of agriculture system, so it becomes really a difficult situation, because in today's scenario we cannot rely on this organic farming to feed a huge population which world today has, and it's a continuously increasing population. So how to feed this much of population without any increase in the substantial increase in the land? So if we go to organic, definitely we'll see a reduction in the yield. And if there is a reduction in yield, you might be having the sustainable agriculture system, but the yield will be very low. And when the yields are going down, and you will be getting sustainable agriculture, like the system is more sustainable, but how to feed the population? So you have to find some alternative ways of cultivating crops. So what could be those ways? So now people are going for aquaponics, hydroponics, but they are again not organic farming. Okay, there again you are using chemicals. So I think organic farming is a good idea, but it's not a practical one, and there is a need to integrate the farming system. Whatever we have learned in the past, when we switched to conventional farming, when people started using chemicals and chemicals to enhance the crop yield and productivity, and started using hybrid seeds. So we should continue that, but we should reduce the application of chemical fertilizer, because we know that it has a certain drawbacks, and drawbacks in the form of polluting the environment. So we should start reducing them, but not replace them totally. So reduction is one way, and replacement is another way. So organic farming, if you say organic farming, so that means you have to replace the chemical fertilizers at all. So that's not possible. So we need to find a middle path wherein organic farming plus like biological inputs, maybe farmyard manure, biofertilizers, and some small quantities of chemical fertilizers. So integrated approach is much sustainable, I guess. It will not reduce the crop productivity.
So, how plants and microbes evolved together?
So plant microbes, because they are microbes were always an integral part of any living form in the this earth ecosystem. So any life form, they need or they have certain microbial symbionts or maybe certain microbial association with them all the time, and these microbial associations are always like required, or in many cases they are very very crucial for the life system, including the plants. So plants and microorganisms, they evolved in a different ways, like when there is a need for nitrogen. So plants has they you'll find more plants which has ability to enter into symbiosis, like legumes. So they grow in very extreme conditions, and they do not require any nitrogenous fertilizer or any nitrogenous supply. So they have, because they have a microbial partner which can fix nitrogen for them in that ecosystem. So this is one example of plant and microbe interaction and how they evolve, and these evolutions are like continuous, because what we are seeing now is a continuously changing environment, and because of today's anthropogenic activity or increasing anthropogenic activities, we are saying that the ecosystems are changing, the climate is changing. So it's believed that because microorganisms are the best system to evolve and adapt to newer ecosystem or newer changing environments. So it is like I strongly believe that when microbes will expose to these changing environments, they will make this environment more friendlier for the other life forms also. It's not like the it's not the higher plant higher living organisms which are going to adapt first to the changing environments. It is always the microbial communities which are associated with these higher organisms. They will evolve first, and then they will make the things better for the higher living organisms to establish in these changing environments.